Hello and welcome to Stef Talks Trash. I'm Stephanie Valentic, Editorial Director of Waste 360. Today, I'm talking trash with Mattie Mae Larson of Upcycle Hawaii. Living on an island where all resources have to be imported, Mattie Mae has had an eye on sustainability her entire life. She has traversed some of the world's most polluted beaches, picking up nets, bottles, and other plastic items to craft into wallets, pouches, and jewelry. Now, her online store is bringing awareness to ocean pollution. Let's talk to Mattie Mae. It's really a pleasure to have a chance to talk to you about Upcycle Hawaii.
Yeah, no, totally. Thank you so much for reaching out and for noticing what we do.
Oh, no, absolutely. So first, how did you get your start with waste? What made you realize that we needed to start upcycling versus, starting something that would be more recycling?
Well, I have a really long experience and history with marine debris, because of where we live and we're an area where a lot of that stuff just washes up on shore, breaks away from the Pacific garbage patch and whatnot. We actually, some of my earliest camping trips as a really young child were to an area that we call Plastic Beach. And so I have a real connection with the fact that, there's plastic that washes up on our shoreline ever since I was very young. And then I grew up in a place that is very small. And when I was a kid, we didn't have any craft stores. We didn't have any big box stores, period. And so as a lifelong creative, I actually had to be creative about being creative. And so upcycling for me goes back to all the way to being a kid, because in order to, be crafty, I had to, utilize things like old rubber inner tubes, wood scraps out of the wood pile, metal scraps from the neighbor, metal worker. And so I've always kind of been an upcycler and had an affinity for, turning something that somebody looks at or doesn't look at, because it's oh, that's trash, and making them see it in a whole different way. And so for me, that's just kind of always been something that I do. And then as I kind of began to get a lot more into the sustainability aspect of things and question, my own sustainability and my lifestyle and some of the mediums I was working in, some clays and glass and things like that, I wanted to commit to doing something, or basically I wanted to commit to making all of my art out of materials that were secondhand, because there was enough of that, junk in the world. And then as I learned more about my own local solid waste issues, I live in a place where we literally basically don't have recycling, and that's really not much of an exaggeration. And we're down to one landfill for our entire island, and we're running out of places to put our trash. And so now that I'm actually able to create real viable products that, people buy and then use for years and years, and we're able to divert material from the landfill and actually turn that into, jobs in our community. It's been oh my gosh, we can, even though it's not huge, we can, through our art and work, actually make a small difference and hopefully inspire other people to have that same kind of transformative thought process that I went through to get to where I am today.
So how did this translate to actually coming up with a business plan and coming up with this whole branding around upcycling?
Yeah, so I am a lifelong entrepreneur. So I was the little kid with the lemonade stand, right? And so I was that proverbial little entrepreneur childhood. So I've always had that spirit, and I've always wanted to own my own business. But I, just didn't think I could do it. So I did my very first farmer's market, and I believe it was October of 2014, a local event. And at the time, I was mostly making jewelry, and it wasn't all upcycled, and I didn't have the name yet. And it was a very humble little booth that I had set up on that, very first event. But I got instant feedback from people that were like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And they really resonated with the items that were upcycled. And then, of course, some of them bought my items, so they exchanged money for my goods. And it was that first experience that made me realize that, oh my gosh, this is something that I think we're onto something, right? Like, wow, this could actually be. And then it was 3 months later. Oh no, it was a year later. I'm sorry. It was late 2015 when I woke up like in the middle of the night and realized, oh my gosh, we're doing 100% reclaimed and repurposed. And I was like, I want to name the business Upcycle Hawaii. And that's when we kind of, laser focused the business into that being, our kind of mission statement. And then in April of 2016, so, not that many months later, I actually quit of the full-time job that I was working and, took a chance to, try to make it happen. And it's kind of just been a journey building on that ever since. But it was really taking a chance at my first, market, and then getting the feedback from the consumers, and then actually having somebody buy something that went, okay, wow, I think this is doable, right?
Let's talk a little about landfill diversion. So where do you source your products from, or your materials from to make these products?
So we work directly with local residents, so that include, of course, our family, friends, and ourselves, and then local businesses. So, for example, right now, one of our large providers of the clear plastics that form the base for a lot of our products is a local kidney dialysis clinic. They get large deliveries of their medication that's, on pallets wrapped in clear plastics. And so we have a system where we go and collect those from them instead of those ending up in the landfill. And so we work a lot of our base plastics, our clear plastics, because we live in Hawaii, everything's shipped here and wrapped. We get a lot of those directly from, local businesses around us. And then we have a day of donations where during certain periods of time, people can come directly to our studio and they can donate certain plastics and materials like toilet paper wrappers, bread bags, things like that. So they literally just come to us, either to our door or in our pickup programs that we have with some of the businesses around us. And like right now, I have another bag that was delivered by another business, and we have to test those plastics and see if they'll work. And then we can take on, we can work on another diversion program with another one of our local businesses. But when I started, I did a lot of dumpster diving and a lot of asking people to collect things for me. But now we've grown to a point where, people kind of come to us.
We talked a little bit about your mission, about where you get your products from. What kind of products are you making from these materials?
Yeah, so I really prefer function as much as possible. In fact, one of the reasons I started making like bags and wallets in the first place is because, we live a very outdoorsy lifestyle here on the Big Island, and I've been a zipline guide and lava guide, and I've bought and, spent good money on stuff that broke. So for us, it's really important to create things that are functional, but also that are very high quality. So a lot of our best sellers are our zipper pouches that are made from plastics, our fused plastics, which is a great material for that because they're naturally water resistant and they're very resilient. We also make a little slide pouch, which comes with a bamboo cutlery set, fork, knife, spoon, straw, and even chopsticks if you want, to kind of, promote people to reduce their own waste when they're going out to eat and stuff like that. So that are what we call our BYOs, our bring your own pouches. Those are one of our best sellers. And then we do, of course, it's coming up on the holidays. So we do ornaments, we do some decorative items. We make all sorts of earrings because everybody loves earrings. Our night lights, our melted marine debris night lights are one of my favorites because, I just love seeing them lit up in my own house every day. And then we make some wallets are, our main functional items. We also do some limited release beach totes from time to time. But really, for the most part, our earrings and our pouches and our keychains are our three best selling products.
It's really interesting to hear about how you're taking these materials that would otherwise end up in landfills and turning them into these quality products that can be used time and time again. So where do you see your business going in the future, and how are you educating potential customers and others about upcycling?
So we kind of the cool thing about upcycling is there's no limit to the possibilities of the things that we can do. There are lots of other materials out there that can be repurposed into different things. So, I just really see us, growing outward and expanding into, trying to, we have an endless list of products to come down the line. So the good news is there's no shortage of ideas and new products to come. And then, unfortunately, there's no shortage of materials out there right now. So, I just kind of see us growing into more diversion, and we'd like to process some harder plastics and start working with other materials that don't have recycling streams, especially here with where we live. And then, who knows, there's a possibility to, teach others and franchise, and whatever it is. But right now, we're just focused on scaling our production to meet our growing needs. And then pretty soon we'll have to find a new location, which will hopefully allow us the space to grow, into some different sort of being able to process further plastics and other materials and things like that. And then on the other turn, we are very active, in the community. So I actually will be doing a presentation for a local elementary school tomorrow. And we just always doing our best to give back to the community. I offer up to 2 school presentations a month. And, it's a little hard right now with COVID, but we, is very active in volunteering and, speaking about, the ability for us to, change the way the world looks at trash and try to reuse as many, as I like to call them, overlooked and underappreciated materials as possible. But more specifically for us, it's just like a recent blog that we wrote, which was, kind of challenging people to put us out of business. Whereas here, where I live specifically on the Big Island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, with very little places to put my solid waste, I challenge people to look at how they live their lifestyle and see what ways we can really reduce, right? Because we love our job and we love making things out of, trash, but we don't love knowing how much is actually out there, There's more than we can handle for sure. So we try to educate on that level is this is what we can make from your waste, but also what are the ways that we can, prevent that waste from existing in the first place, because that's okay with us. I'm flexible. Our business has already had to pivot a few times, right? So we'll go with the flow and whatever it is. But no, I make sure to participate with, schools, and we did get a field trip in this. We did a field trip within the last 3 or 4 months where we brought in a school group, but then things got a little bit crazy again, so we won't be hosting any field trips. And then, of course, through our newsletters and our blog and our Instagram, we try to, they are sales channels for us, but we try to be very transparent in what we do and why we do it. And, challenge others to, even in our giveaways where it's like, what can we do to be more eco-friendly? So that's a real big component to what we do.
And that's absolutely fantastic. Thank you again for speaking with me today. Just one final question. Exactly how much in terms of materials have you diverted from landfills at this point?
Okay, so right now we are up to, and this is conservative, we definitely underquote ourselves, but we have diverted since January of 2018, 612 pounds and 43,125 square feet of plastics from our local landfill.
Wow. Well, it's fantastic to hear your backstory, how, this has been a part of your life, to hear about your mission, and to hear about the business, and now to hear about this diversion rate. It's going to be incredible to see how how Upcycle Hawaii grows. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more of what you're doing, seeing your products. Thank you once again for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Thank you once again for joining me for this episode of Stef Talks Trash. For this and other episodes, please visit waste360.com. And don't be trashy.